Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into this YouTube video, and it's all about how to speak English like a native speaker.
Yeah, specifically if you're maybe planning a trip to the US sometime soon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
And so what I thought was so interesting about this video was it's not just like a vocabulary list or like grammar rules or something like that.
right.
It's actually a whole like scenario that they set up.
Yeah, a dialogue.
Yeah, like between a customer and a cashier at like a store or a coffee shop or something like that.
And it's so smart because it really makes you think about like, okay, what would I actually say
Yeah.
in this situation? And
Wow.
it gives you the language to do it.
Yeah, and what I also liked about it was like it wasn't just like watching someone else have the conversation.
Yeah.
It was like they would say a line and then you would have to like repeat it back or like respond to it.
Right. It was like a call and response kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that I think is like so helpful for actually learning a language.
Absolutely. It's like active practice instead of just passive listening. Like if you think about learning anything else, like riding a bike or cooking,
Mm-hmm.
you have to actually do it to get better at it.
Right. Yeah, it's not enough to just like watch someone else do it.
Exactly.
And so like some of the phrases that they had in this video were just like so classic.
Oh, yeah.
Like things that you hear all the time if you're in the US, like, hi, how are you today? Or did you find everything all right? Like just like those really common customer service kind of phrases.
And those are so important because they're like little cultural cues.
Right.
In America, customer service is a big deal and people
Yeah.
expect to be greeted with a smile and like a friendly attitude.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not just about the words themselves. It's like the tone of voice and the body language and everything.
Exactly. Like you'll hear things like, sounds great, or will that be all for you today?
Right.
And it's not that those phrases are like super meaningful on their own, but it's that they convey a certain kind of like politeness and helpfulness
Mhm.
that's expected in those kinds of interactions.
Yeah. And then there was this one part in the video where they introduced like a problem,
Oh, yeah.
like a price discrepancy,
Right.
where like the cashier rings something up wrong or something like that.
And I thought that was really interesting because at first I was like, well, why would you want to practice like a negative situation like that?
Yeah.
But then I realized like, okay, in real life, things don't always go perfectly.
Right.
So it's actually really helpful to practice how to handle those kinds of situations.
Yeah, like what if you're in a store and you realize that something's been rung up wrong and you have to like say something?
Right. And if
Yeah.
you've never practiced that before, it can be really stressful.
Yeah, I remember this one time I was in Paris and I was trying to buy something and I completely froze up because I couldn't remember how to ask for a bag in French.
Oh, no.
And I just like stood there for like a minute, just like totally blanking.
It's so awkward.
It was so awkward. Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to practice, like even those little things, because you
Yeah.
never know when you're going to need them.
And then at the end of the video, they actually had you switch roles.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to practice being both the customer and the cashier.
Which is brilliant because it like reinforces everything that you've learned.
Yeah, you're not just like listening and repeating. You're actually like having to come up with the responses yourself.
Exactly.
So yeah, overall, I thought this video was like a really cool and effective way to practice conversational English.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like it's practical, it's engaging, and it's based on like actual research about how people learn languages.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are some of the key takeaways for our listener?
Well, I think the biggest one is like, don't be afraid to practice.
Yes.
Like even if you're not in the US, even if you don't have anyone to practice with, like you can still find ways to like get that active practice.
Absolutely. And like think about your own daily life.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are some situations where you could use English more,
Like maybe you go to a coffee shop every morning.
right?
Like, could you try ordering in English or like having a little conversation with the barista?
Or like if you work in an office,
Yeah.
could you try speaking English with your colleagues more often?
Yeah, like even just little things like that can make a huge difference.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
So just get out there and start talking.
Exactly. Have fun with it.
All right, well, that's our deep dive for today.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.